Hello. Hello, everyone. Hi, and I want to thank everyone for coming out. Appreciate it. We're here to remember my mom. This is a celebration of her life. And we have a nice turnout here considering COVID-19. We got everybody social distancing, wearing masks, and having a good celebration. We've been enjoying some good food here. Some of my mom's favorite deli food from Catella Deli up in Orange County. And this morning, the bagels and lox were provided by Steve Amster. Thank you very much for that. And I got to tell you, anybody who's local here, those are absolutely the best bagels you can find anywhere. Now, I'd like to begin by bringing out my daughter, Nicole, and she has something special to share.
Hello, everybody. I thought I would come to this service today and share with you a couple of my grandmother's songs. She shared with me that when she was young and needed a lift, that this first song, her sister would sing it to her, and it would make her feel better and cheer her up. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles smell like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? song number 2 is a song that I was all over Pocahontas when it came out when I was a kid, and I sang and sang and sang the song from Pocahontas ad nauseum and annoyed everybody. And Grandma got really attached to me singing that song, and every time I would come over, she would special request that I would sing that for her. So that is my next song. You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew, you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or asked the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends. And we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. How high does a sycamore grow? If you cut it down, then you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon. For whether we are white or copper-skinned, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountain. We need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth and still all you'll own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. I missed that. She hasn't sang for me to hear in a long time, but she took up guitar, I don't know, around a year, 2 years ago, and she's quite the up-and-comer. She's a really good guitarist, too, so maybe next time we get a chance to hear her again, she'll be singing and playing the guitar. Next up, I'd like to call up my mom's friend, Berna. And Berna's been a friend for a long time. She's going to talk a little bit about how Mom and she became friends. Berna, would you come on up? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bernadine, and it's a little difficult for me because I loved her so much. We both lived in Camarillo. I lived in Camarillo in the 90s, and anyway, we would walk. I'd get up and walk every morning about 5 o'clock in the morning, and there are times when, you know, we'd just be walking. Well, one particular day, out walking, I stopped at the stoplight to do at the crosswalk, and Doreen happened to be there, and we started talking, and we had been talking ever since. You know, that was about 22 years ago, and she lived in a complex, in the senior complex, and I lived in the complex right next door to her, and we found out where each other lived, and you know, we just started talking every day from then, and then we'd get up and start walking in the morning together. I'd meet her, we'd meet outside and just walk together, and we did that for a few years, you know, a number of years, and as we got to know one another and know about our families, and she became my children's grandma. You know, she would, as I had to go to work, get up and go to work in schools, but the younger two, the older one can go by himself, but the younger two, she'd say, "You go to work, and I'll take them to school." So every morning she'd be right outside waiting for them, you know, and taking them to school because I had already gone to work, and you know, she was just so much to me. She really meant so much to me. Sorry, I don't mean to cry, but I loved her so much, and I still love her. She's here with me all the time. She would call me at night, any time of the night, day or night, and usually late at night we start talking, and next thing I know, 2 or 3 hours have passed, you know. So anyway, Rick came to pick me up. I live in Ventura, California, so it's a little ways away from here. And he came to pick me up because I couldn't drive myself. It's just too much. And I'm so glad that I'm here. And I wouldn't want to miss this for anything in the world. She was just everything to me. So just want to thank you for listening. But that's how we met. And she would always call me daughter whenever I come to. "Oh, my daughter, you're here. I'm so glad you're here." And I'll say this, you know, not the night before she passed away, but excuse me, day before that, you know, I called Michael to see how she was doing, and Michael, you know, because I'd tell him I would get updates. And so when I called, he said she hadn't really been talking much, but I said, put the phone to her ear. You know, I just want to tell her how much I love her, and, you know, and I'm going to try to get down to see her. And he said, boy, she hadn't talked much at all, but she talked to you. You know, she listened. I told her I'm going to come and see her, and trying to get down there that week. And she said, I'd like that. I'd like that. And that was my last conversation with her. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you, Berna. You know, I want to acknowledge that the internet signal that we're getting right now for the people who are watching from home is a little weak. And so my understanding, they can hear us, but they can't see us, and that's okay. But it's being recorded, so hopefully the playback will work better later. But right now we'll continue. Don't have any choice. But anyway, next up, I would like to introduce somebody who I met about 40 years ago. And without this man, I wouldn't be able to walk today. I was in a situation where I used to trip every single day because of my ankle problems. And he put me on a path and corrected those, and I'm walking still. So, and he's been keeping me walking all these years. Whenever I need help, I go and see my own doctor, Chris Miller. So, but Chris has been friends so long, he really is family to us. And my mom, he was the only doctor that she trusted. Those of you all know my mom, she didn't go to doctors, but she went to Chris. So I'd like to bring Chris up, and he's got a few words to share. Thank you, Chris.
I had 2 of Doreen's sandwiches, and man, am I stuffed right now. But they were good. They were good. As Rick said, I am Chris Miller. I'm a chiropractor. I met Doreen well over 40 years ago. And when I first met her, Rick and Michael, they were just teenagers. So all this time has gone by. It's just how fast. But Doreen has always been there. She's always been part of my career. I've gotten to know her very well over the years. She was metaphysical and spiritual before that was cool. She was one of the originals. And she was metaphysical in her own way. She had her own ideas about things. She never followed any kind of path. She just spoke her mind and always came up with her own sense of what was right, what was wrong. I enjoyed many conversations with her. In fact, some of the conversations got my receptionist, Kathy, pissed off because I'm spending too much time with Doreen in there talking. And so it got to the point where, all right, Doreen, you keep talking. It's good, but you got to get down on the table. And I'll work on you, but you keep talking. That's perfectly fine. And we had conversations about anything you could imagine. One of our favorite conversations was talk about aliens. We both loved aliens. And I know Doreen was an Alien fan and had many conversations about that. Spiritual, metaphysical conversations, you name it. Doreen was one of those types of people that friends would come to her to share their problems, and she was always somebody that would listen and give people comfort. And even myself, going through my trials and tribulations over the years, when Doreen would come in, I would share some of my own issues, and she was always there comforting, but always dominated the conversation. So I'm kind of a quiet, shy guy. She's just the opposite. She's out there. So I will always have many great memories of Doreen. I'll miss her very much. Having her come into the office was always an event. Even in the past 10 years where she had to be confined to a wheelchair, it still was special for Doreen to come in and see her and talk to her. So I'm going to miss her very much. One of the standout patients that I'll always remember for the rest of my life. And I know she's in a better place right now. I have no doubt. So thank you for inviting me to Doreen's home, and it's beautiful. I can see there's so much of Doreen here in the yard, and her love of nature, very evident. And I've enjoyed being here very, very much. But I won't have any more food, I promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, this is a very helpful day for Michael and I and my wife Nina, with all the friends and family coming together here and over the internet, and it's very helpful to us. This has been obviously very, very difficult time for my brother and I, and this means a lot. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. I'd like to call up next my wife, Nina, and she's been through a lot in just the last few years. She's lost her aunt, her mother, her father, and my mother. So as challenging as this time is for me, it's even more for her right now. But she still wants to say a few words, and please come on up.
Yeah, little shrimp here. Vertically challenged. All right. Well, as you've already noticed, one second, sorry. You will find, and you've already seen, common among a lot of us here today. It is because we have been knitted together with the colorful yarn that was Doreen Hall. I am wearing a scarf that she made for me, and I have a collection at home. Doreen was authentic, honest, street smart, had a great sense of humor, and a quick wit, rare qualities that I admire so much. She would tell you what she thought about any subject and wasn't shy about expressing her opinion. Doreen adored her sons, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She always treated me as a member of the family, often referred to me as her daughter, and I called her mom. She maintained close relationships with friends she made in such far-flung places as England, France, and Australia, among others. Doreen overflowed with generosity toward her family, friends, and strangers alike. She would often invite day laborers or those down on their luck to partake in Thanksgiving dinner. And oh my God, when she made food, she made enough for 100 people. It was like you'd never run out of food at her house. She knitted scarves for the homeless, and that's another reason why I'm wearing one today, to celebrate that. And we went downtown just a week ago and handed out the last of her knitted scarves to the homeless. She did that until her shoulders hurt. Distributed them downtown each month as we celebrated a week ago. She returned home and then started working on them, a new batch. She would spend hours on the phone with relatives and friends, listening to their problems and giving them advice to help overcome them. Doreen's constant creativity encompassed a wide variety of crafts, interior decorating, and yard beautification. She had a prodigious green thumb and was always adding new plants and statuary to her yard. And she got these things from everywhere: thrift stores, garage sales, just nurseries. I mean, any place was a good place for her to find things to put in her yard. And so this incredible backyard we are present in today is her legacy in that way. Doreen had many wonderful stories about her parents and her adventures with her brothers and sisters, Harriet, Harry, Marty, and Janice. She told us many things about them, and she just told so many stories, so many wonderful stories about her family. And after her last brother, Marty, passed, she kept saying how much she missed him. And I just hope with all my heart they're all together now and having a party with lots of food. And I will miss her terribly. I miss her terribly. I loved her very much, and she was a great influence on me with a lot of things. I mean, I kind of already had a lot of compassion for people, but she really showed me compassion and selflessness, and that was a total inspiration for me. And I was going to say that I miss her very much, and I think that she's made the world a better place for a lot of people. I was going to talk about health food. So we were talking. She was into health food and a lot of other things, alternative medicine, alternative treatments. And I think that was the most thing. For me, that was like one of the most important influences she had on me, because I think doctors know what they know, but I also think they only go so far. And she taught me how to seek out alternative remedies for some of the conditions that I had. And it taught me to look other places. And when I was growing up, all we ate in the house was beef and pork and lamb. And pretty much thanks to her and also kind of some inspiration from my father a little bit, I decided to drop those things. I probably would be a total vegetarian if the food wasn't so spicy. But anyway, the idea is, I eat chicken and fish, but I don't eat beef anymore. And I think I'm healthier for it. But I also seek out alternative treatments, and I really credit that. I credit that part of my life to her. So thank you for listening, and I really appreciate everybody who came out here and joined us for this today. Thank you.
I think Nina's the only one here I'm allowed to hug based on COVID rules. So I give her one. But thank you, Nina. Okay. Next thing. Oh, I wanted to ask. I called a few people here to speak, but I don't know if there may be a few more that also wanted to speak. So I wanted to create that opportunity. If anybody wants to speak, this would be a good time. Okay. And so I'm going to call up. What we've done is we've received some eulogies by internet for the people watching from far away. And so, well, Uncle Michael's going to do that. So I'm going to call up Michael, my older brother, and I'm trying to figure out where he's going to begin. Right here. Okay. I could have prepared that in advance, I'm sorry. But that should do. Okay, Mike, you're up. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. And hi to everyone out there. Kind of grateful, at least for the moment, that the image is frozen, so you can't all see how old I've gotten since the last time you saw me, but I guess it'll catch up with me eventually. Anyway, thank you so much for attending this in your virtual fashion. We really, really appreciate it. We just love all of you to death. And our only regret is that you can't be here in person. But under the circumstances, obviously we're all doing our best. Anyway, we did have a few people who couldn't be here today, but who did want to make their feelings known about Mom and what she meant to their life. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and read all of these to you. The first is from our cousin Sandy. She was actually a member of our ex-stepdad's, my mother's second husband, a member of her family, but she loved my mother, and her sister Tina loved my mother a great deal, and definitely kept up a communication with her after she and my ex-stepdad got divorced. So we are profoundly grateful for that. We're so glad that you were able to remain friends with her, and she certainly valued your friendship very much. So this is from Sandy. She's saying, I'm no good at putting words together. I'm sure she's just fine at it from what I can read, but a lot of people feel that way. But what I can say is that I'm lost without her. Wanted to call her so many times since she's been gone. She showed me unconditional love. Looked at me better than any blood relative. Someone once said, you can pick your friends, but not your family. I chose to be my friend and my family. I'll forever apply her wisdom to my life and pour it into my family and friends. Forever will I miss her. It's beautiful. Thank you, Sandy. No, you are just fine with words, and we really appreciate it. This next is from our cousin Adam, who lives up in New York, and we're privileged enough to be able to see him every so often from time to time when he comes out here. Maybe we'll get to visit him out there in the near future. And he was also very close to my mother, and you know, he had a few things that he wants to say about that. So many of those listening don't know who I am, and that's, after all, it's 3,000 miles from the Bronx, my home, to yours in California. All the more reason to understand how special my Aunt Doreen was to me. I am her nephew by marriage. My late wife, Paula Levine, was Doreen's niece. The connection was Harry Levine, Doreen's older brother, and Paula's dad. When Paula tragically took her own life in 2004, Doreen stepped right up. Though a continent away, it seemed seamless in the way and time frame in which she was the only person who stayed connected to me. Not even Paula's sister and cousins in New Jersey could muster up the emotional strength to get past their own emotional roadblocks to help keep a family flame going. Aunt Doreen was so special in that way, it seemed like a character strength in her that by comparison, others I knew sorely lacked. The conversations we had over the ensuing years were interesting, to say the least, and always sweet. It was a delight being able to have a conversation while driving long distances for work with someone who not only respected you, but loved family for years and harbored anger at my younger brother for his mistreatment of me. Not uncommon, I thought. During a visit to see her shortly after I left the business, Doreen, sitting in the backyard of her home, noshing on a just-picked tangerine from her fruit garden, came down hard on me. I don't know what that therapist is telling you, but let me tell you one thing, nephew. The anger you are harboring will eat you up, and your brother will win. You have to overcome it, get past it. How you do that is up to you, but you must. For that conversation, that advice, that is the single most powerful piece of advice anyone has ever given me. And yes, it worked. One last thing. Cousin Mike and I are in the midst of building a long-distance, long-term friendship. Thank you, Mike, for reading all this to all of those who knew Doreen and loved her. I know for a fact that she is smiling when she overhears our conversations, reads our email exchanges, and realizes that in a good old-fashioned Eastern European Jewish way, Doreen has put us together, as friends and as family. Much like the matchmaker from Fiddler on the Roof, the term shaddik, a match, comes to mind. What Doreen helped create in 21st century California is timeless. That is one of her endearing and loving legacies. For all of this, I am eternally grateful to you, Doreen, for being my aunt. I am a lucky man. I miss you and will always love you. Thanks, Adam. And we are certainly honored to call you a friend and family as well. And this is from our cousin Craig Wallner. I'll always remember Aunt Doreen as a person with a big spirit and humor, who sought deeper understanding of life and had social awareness. I'm glad for the times I had seen her in San Marcos, and when she made the trips up to Torrance and Los Angeles. The conversations with her over the last 10 to 15 years were enjoyable, and sometimes an education. I'm glad to know her a little bit better, and she'll be missed. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it, guy. I'll just mention that the last weekend before Mom died, there was nothing she liked better than taking a ride, especially in the last couple of years of her life where she really couldn't drive herself too much anymore. So Rick and I would usually, on Saturday or Sunday, we would take her somewhere. And that last Saturday, we actually went up to Los Angeles, and we got to visit with Craig. and also take her to one of her favorite delis, Cantor's, very famous deli up in Los Angeles, where she got to eat some deli food. I think that was probably the last honest meal that she had, and visiting with family, that meant a great deal to all of us. So thank you, Craig, for that. We really appreciate it. This next one is from Ted Farkas. Ted was actually hired to be my mother's handyman in the house. He did a number of things, did some great repairs around the house, also mounted the televisions, the wall screen TV in her bedroom, which we still enjoy to this day. And eventually we all became very fond of Ted. In some ways he reminded me a little bit of my own father. Great guy. And anyway, Ted lives in Philadelphia, and he's got a lot on his plate. And obviously, with COVID, we couldn't expect him to be here today. But we're very glad to be maintaining communication with him. And we do have this message from him regarding our mother. So, from Ted, I met Doreen purely by accident. Being a handyman, I was recommended to her by the family therapist. But an hour after meeting her, it was as if I had known her for a lifetime. She was very open with her feelings. She had a gift of gab and somehow was able to have complete strangers share their life story with her within the very first conversations, as well as share her own. Doreen was a very sensitive and compassionate person. She loved her family and friends deeply. Her children were her world, and in turn they adored her. I ask you, how many adult children take their mother on their vacations with them? Well, hers did. And yes, we did do that. with mixed results from time to time, but we did it. And I'm sure they felt richer for it. Yes, we certainly did, in all respects. And I can tell you this, she knew a lot. She always had large thoughts, and she had her own unique brand of wisdom, with no filter. Yes, definitely, no filter. She's never had an unspoken thought. Boy, Ted, you are nailing it, dude. You always knew where Doreen stood, whether it was religion, politics, death and dying, philosophy, or the best deals at Costco. Yep, she was up on everything. I will miss her dearly, a good friend and confidant. And when I look for her, I can look to the stars at night and look into the eyes and hearts of everyone and find a little piece of her. She will live on forever. Ted, man, you were a handyman. I think you have the word in you, guy. And this last is from Brian Sheps. This is Nina's brother, my brother-in-law, and a very great guy. Love him and his wife, Nancy. And without further ado, we've enjoyed Doreen's charming and warm personality ever since she became a member of our family. It all started on my sister's wedding in the early 80s, and we've had the pleasure of seeing her at regular family gatherings over the past 4 decades. She added a very colorful perspective and dynamic to those occasions. I've always been intrigued about what was on her mind, whether it was a discussion on conspiracy theories, unexplained phenomena, political trends, or general suspicions. Was it possible that the assassination of John F. Kennedy was actually associated with UFOs visiting from worlds beyond? Was the coronavirus linked to political and socio-economic changes within ours or other great nations? Doreen would have the answers, and she could talk about these concepts at great lengths in fine detail and angles no one could imagine but her. Our discussions were spellbinding. You were on the edge of your seat and left the conclusion questioning everything from the supernatural to the meaning of life. Sometimes you also wanted to just back up a little bit. I'll just throw that in. I really wish these ideas could be captured in a book or an essay so future generations could appreciate them just as we have over the years. Needless to say, the family gatherings just won't be the same without her energy and insight. We will miss Doreen very much. She was one of a kind, and that is just about the truest thing you could say about her. Thanks, Brian. Next, we have the words from my brother, Rick.
Thanks, Mike. You did a good job reading all those, and I appreciate your taking that on. I suspect that writing a eulogy is something that nobody enjoys or looks forward to doing, and honestly, I didn't even know where to begin. I thought it might be a good starting point to just jot down some words and phrases that I associate with my mom. Glitzianer, Litvak, Jew. Mom, grandma, great-grandma, aunt, and friend. Thrift stores, eBay, garage sales, and ticketless special dispensation. Green thumb, interior and exterior decorator. Scarves and pizza for the homeless. Health food and home remedies. Spaghetti, spumoni, deep dish, and thin crust pizza. And, of course, hot pastrami on rye with Russian dressing. Being flirted with at the San Clemente border checkpoint. Grass. Her potato soup, lasagna, and blueberry cheesecake. UFOs, aliens, Area 51, and Roswell, New Mexico. Road trips to Vancouver, Key West, Florida, and New York City. Worry about loved ones, compassion for the needy, and ketchup. Mom loved ketchup. This is a short list, and I'm sure there are more. I would like to dig a little bit into some of these and tell you a few stories to help you understand why these words and my mother were important to me. But I would like to begin with a word that some of you might associate with me, guitar. Last year marked my 50th year playing guitar. I'm told that once as a toddler, my family was somewhere listening to a live band performance, and from what I can remember of the story, I ran up on stage and fixated on the guitarist, focused only on the instrument. My mom went out immediately and bought me a toy guitar, and that became my absolute favorite toy. When I was 6, Mom started me in guitar lessons, but more importantly, she encouraged me. Whenever I played anything for her, you would have thought I was Eric Clapton by her reaction. To my brother's chagrin, she also encouraged my singing, which, to his reaction, must have sounded something only slightly more appealing than scratching fingernails on a blackboard. It isn't possible to underestimate the relationship between my sense of self-worth and the encouragement I received at an early age from my mom. But that wasn't the greatest gift she gave me. Mom, through her quiet, loving example, taught me to care about others in countless examples throughout my life. Mom was the kind of a person that could bring a migrant worker living in the fields home for a shower, some clothes, and share our Thanksgiving dinner. She was the kind of a person that could be best of friends from the moment she met a person anywhere, and race, gender preference, or religion never entered into that. And once a friend, she could spend endless hours listening to the person's troubles and giving compassionate advice from the heart. I doubt there's a person here today that couldn't say they were a recipient of Mom's well-intentioned and warm words. In all, Mom had 3 children, Michael, myself, and my half-brother Greg. I think it's safe to assume that at various points of time, she would have gladly sent any of them back where they came from. But there is no doubt that she loved each of us in spite of our imperfections, transgressions, and occasional bad behavior or tantrums. In the final analysis, she changed our diapers when we were babies and metaphorically continued to do so as needed throughout our lives. She was a good mom even when we weren't deserving. She always forgave us. She had 3 beautiful grandchildren, Nicole, Sarah, and Jason. She loved each of them and encouraged each of them the same way she did for me with my guitar. Nicole with her singing, Sarah with her art, and Jason with his poetry. Mom would just rave about their talent. She was very proud of them. Mom was blessed with 3 great-grandchildren too, Roland, Oz, and Ryan. Mom really enjoyed and loved them all, and in spite of her disability and painful movement, she would get herself out into the car and drive over to Nicole's house to visit her and the great-grands. She really loved doing that. Some of you may not know that Mom was a high school dropout. She went to modeling school and dated a diplomat who worked at the UN. She was even invited to a presidential inauguration. She saw Dizzy Gillespie at the world-famous Birdland Club in Manhattan. She lived through the Great Depression and remembered her mother crying from news that the Nazis destroyed our ancestral homeland in Galicia, killing our family there. She lived in a time when everyone listened to the radio. The Iceman delivered ice up 10 flights of stairs in the tenement building. She had a fascinating life, some of it good, some not so good, but she never stopped loving everyone in her life. I think that was the greatest gift from her. She taught me that love was more important than anything else, more important than goals or achievements or money or work or business or hobbies. To love each other, that is what she taught me, and why not? After all, I was her favorite son. Okay, sometimes Michael was her favorite. That's true, but I was her most favorite. At least she always made me feel that way. She never tossed out a birthday card or gave away a gift. No matter how useless the thing was to her, the sentimental value was overwhelming. I will carry her in my heart the rest of my life the same way. I'd like to call my brother back up. He has a few words to share of his own.
Don't listen to him or believe a word he says. We know who the favorite son was. It was Greg. No, not really. So anyway, before I get into my own, I was remiss with something. I apologize for that. After we had printed out the messages that people were going to read, we found out today that Lori and Alan Walliner, they were supposed to come here today, and unfortunately, Lori is under the weather. But she did pass along some words. But since my printer is on the fritz right now, I'm just reading this off of an iPad. So please forgive me if my delivery is a little bit stilted with it. The printed ones are much easier to read. So. And by the way, I just wanted to mention that Lori and Alan are actually the parents of Jason Walliner, who directed the Borat sequel. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, just wanted to drop that.
And it's hilarious.
And it's hilarious, depending, I guess, upon your worldview and your tolerance for some gross out comedy, which even his mother said, like, wow, really? They went that far?
It's shocking and disgusting, but it is
funny. Okay, so from Lori. Alan and I are both so terribly sorry we aren't present today. We were all set to go, but I am not feeling well, not COVID as I was tested. And Doreen was and always will be a cherished person and member of our family. She was the last remaining sibling of 5. In that generation of Levines, and most certainly a true example of being a bona fide individualist. This quality set her apart from others in that regard and in the world at large. The very fact that we reinvented a relationship in her later years, since we were in New York, was so meaningful. The part was that she was also a wonderfully attentive listener. She always looked intently in person and responded with words of encouragement and wisdom. She was someone who was a true, trusted confidant. Even if she had a hard time hearing, she would ask kindly for a repeat so she could be present for us. Her sense of humanity, humor, faith, and I can even say eccentricity made Aunt Doreen the very special person she was. Thanks to her family, especially Rick, Nina, and of course Michael, who has lived with her, and she had a wonderful quality of life in spite of having health issues. We miss her so much, and in her own words, I will be back in another form. I do feel her presence and know that she will give us a sign when she is local. Let's all hope. Sending love to us all. Lori and Alan Wallner. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate that. Thanks again for your son and his great work. Rick and I watched that a week or so ago, and we had a ball. So thank you. Okay. So, in just a moment. Sorry, just bear with me a moment. I just need to pull this up. I think our internet may be a little slow out here. So before I get started, can I just ask, could you think of a better place, better venue to hold something like this in? Can we maybe get just a little appreciation for the job my mother did putting this together so we could enjoy it? It's just wonderful. So if you look around, you could see a Buddhist statue there, one over there, 2 stone tortoises, an Easter Island god, a fish with a propeller for a tail, and, oh yeah, if you go that way and into what she called her secret garden, you'll also find a Martian giving us the peace sign. Yeah. Seriously. That was our mother, all right. I think the word for that would be eclectic. Yeah, we'll come back to that later. So, Mom was the 4th of 5 children born to George and Rose Levine. She was born on August the 12th, 1936, in Newark's Beth Israel Hospital, the same hospital as my father and where I myself would be born many years later. You may think that things are crazy today. Well, you're right, they are crazy today. But just to put that in what we're going through right now in perspective, just 18 years after she was born, the world had gone through the Spanish flu, still the worst pandemic on record in recorded human history. Hitler was consolidating his power at home, and his army was on the march all over Europe. 8 years after the stock market crash, the U.S. was still mired in the Great Depression, and millions were being displaced by the Dust Bowl. When Mom was just 5, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. That was what was going on when she was just a little child. George was a plumber who had come to his profession the hard way after an apprenticeship where anti-Semites would often put out their cigar butts on him. Like many during the Depression, he often had a hard time making ends meet, but no matter how tight money got, he and his wife Rose always saw to it that food in the house was plentiful. That's a Jewish thing, I think. With 4 siblings, Mom didn't lack for companionship. It was a lively house, but while there's little question that George and Rose were devoted parents, they often had violent tempers, and the penalties for getting out of line could be swift and very severe. After the war, soldiers began to come home, and America got busy building the suburbs to house them. George had a reputation for being such a straight shooter that even the local mafia bosses respected him for his honesty, and he found himself with as much work installing plumbing in those new houses as he could handle. For the first time, the family was actually prosperous. Meanwhile, as Rick had mentioned, my mother had dropped out of high school at the age of 14. It might surprise you to learn that Mom was never really that fond of school, given her endless curiosity and lifelong love of learning, much of it that she had inherited from her mother Rose. But the teachers, testing, and regimentation turned her off. Already coming into her own as a beauty, she attended modeling school, again as Rick mentioned, for a time, but again dropped out when she learned that the models were mostly poorly paid and sexually harassed, something she'd already been dealing with, as it was. That was followed by a series of office jobs that failed to pan out for one reason or another, but Mom really didn't worry. Being a housewife was the role she had trained for her entire life, and she was really just waiting to meet the right person so she could do that. After a series of youthful relationships, including a young man she almost ran away with to marry, at the age of 18, Mom began seeing a friend of a friend named Doreen Hall. The potential for romance didn't last, but the friendship did, and one day, Irv asked her to accompany him to the hospital to visit his brother Bill, who had been badly wounded while fighting in Korea and had just been transferred back to the mainland after 2 years of surgeries and recovery in Hawaii. She wasn't much taken with him at first. Physically, Irv was much more to her type, but as she got to know him and see just how his friends responded to his humor and quiet decency, she was intrigued enough to do something she'd never had to before: ask a young man she was interested in out on a date. That man was to become our father, and he accepted, and all of our lives were set at that moment. In 1963, when I was 5, my parents decided to try their luck and move to California, and I think it was then that Mom's double life as a wife, mother, political activist, and spiritual seeker began. After my brother Rick was born, she took part in marches for civil rights and against the war in Vietnam. She stuffed envelopes in the Peace Center that was bombed just a few weeks after she worked there. Yet, to all outward appearances, she was just an ordinary housewife, living a middle-class life in those conservative regions in the country. She wasn't any shyer about expressing her opinions then than now. And I'll bet many of our neighbors probably thought she was a communist. Yet both of my parents were very popular on our block anyway, and just about all of our neighbors at one time or another were guests in our house. Of course, we did throw the best parties. Sadly, the strains brought on by my father's experiences in Korea proved to be too much for their marriage to handle, and they wound up divorcing in 1970, though they remained friends for life. Mom wound up marrying John Furton, with whom she had another son, Greg, and to whom she stayed married for 45 years. It was during that period that she became interested in what today we would call New Age philosophy, astrology, and reincarnation, the implications of which became a focus for the rest of her life. Like all of us, Mom was complicated and a study in contradictions. As a child of Orthodox Jewish parents, she could read the Kaddish word for word, yet had no problem theorizing that the God of the Old Testament was a stand-in for ancient aliens. She had extensively studied nutrition and the best things to eat to keep oneself healthy, yet had an awesome sweet tooth that allowed her to polish off an entire cake or bag of candy when the mood took her. She was often completely fearless in the conduct of her own life, yet would panic if one of her children showed up so much as 5 minutes late for dinner. As all of you know, and has been mentioned several times today, she was incredibly generous with her time, freely taking hours on end to dispense wonderful advice to her friends and family on how best to deal with their problems. She was not always able to take that advice herself. At the end, I think she came to believe that what matters most is gratitude, and that if you would seek a better world, the first step is to look around and take stock of all the wonderful things you have to be grateful for. Speaking for myself, I am so grateful to have had such positive role models in my life. From my father, his sense of humor, loyalty to friends, and knowing the profound distinction between real pain and mere discomfort. Though things didn't end well between us, I credit my work ethic to her second husband, my ex-stepfather. But to whatever extent I remain committed to being a moral person, trying to treat others as I would be treated, to speak your truth even when it might cost you, and to always be ready to help those less fortunate than yourself, I owe entirely to Doreen Hall. As well as my latent craziness, which I also got from her. That was also her gift to me. I'm glad I had the opportunity to thank her for that in the last months of her life. And finally, I'm so grateful to have the support and friendship of those of you here with us today, as well as those of you watching online. And Mom, wherever you are in your journey, buena suerte, may your road rise up to meet you. We'll meet again. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Mike. And then for everyone here and the people watching online, I hope they're still being able to hear. This completes the broadcasted portion of the afternoon, but you're all welcome to stay as long as you want. There's plenty of food. There's more fruit salad, and there's plenty of conversation and reminiscences and stories about Mom. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Okay.
So he turns off the TV.
Jay, Nicole, Nina, please join me.
No.
It's nice meeting you guys. Have a blessed day. Thank you, Rick.
I can't say.
Keep safe. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Sing with, what are we singing? Well, everybody's going for the money, thinking it makes the world go round. Well, this old world keeps turning on and on. Now when you're laying underneath the ground, well, somebody's got a hold on me, a hold on my everyday life, a hold on my friends and my relatives too, on my husband, my children, and my wife. When I think I'll buy me a fancy car and a TV and a stereo, and I'll drive and I'll watch, I'll listen all the time, and I won't have to think anymore. Well, as long as I buy everything I want, I keep missing something I should know. Well, somewhere in my town, there's a man broken down, and somewhere there's a guy with too much dough. So why sing a song about money? Why think about your way of life? Well, it's time to face that the human race needs something more than money to survive. Well, everybody's going for the money, thinking it makes the world go round. Oh, well, this old world keeps turning on and on. Now when you're laying underneath the ground. Thank you, Dad. All right? Happy? All right, we got one song in for Mom. Go back to.
Surprised I didn't cry.
Grandma would have loved that.
Well, I didn't know your mother, but I feel like I know her now.
Yeah, pretty much everything they said, I would have just said the exact same thing.
So
So.
touching, and so happy that I came here today to get to thank you for being here. Yes, wonderful. All right, I'm gonna go.
This guy needs a change, yeah. I was waiting till the presentation was over.
Yeah, they came later. I don't think it I don't always complain.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, I feel guilty sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, I scared you must be so tired. Well, you don't need me to be
That's
thank you for being here, Fred. And really, really important thing for Well, go ahead. Well, I was trying to straight out off the chart. So, if it's a fail, good.
Hey, let me get you the dress. No, I know. Are you being silly? I know exactly what that is. You're trying to sit on my foot. The food's cheap. Silly face. But it's fantastic. And they have all sorts of and the place is decorated.
I wonder where it's at.
It's in the Rio area.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's where my dentist is.
Yeah.
That's all the big people. That's how I found out about it because it's like right across the street from my dentist. I called it and got a new one. I just asked her a few days ago. I can't believe 30 years old. Ask her if she has a friend. I'm 30. I'm almost 30.
Good enough for her.
I bet you can get away with it. Tell them I said that. Tell them to try a VPN. That's virtual private network, VPN. People do that. Let me tell you why they do it. They go to Mexico or somewhere and they get that network. Because the Netflix is restricted to this country. All your favorite shows. From the U.S., you can't watch them. If you're in Mexico, they're not licensed.
Should I tickle him?
To run those
No.
shows. So you can't. Netflix doesn't like losing that money. You want this with my mom, okay? Vancouver Island, Canada. We went there for vacation, we drove up there. And it was Michael, myself, my mom, and all of our bags and crap in the car. And my mom in a wheelchair in the truck in that Prius. And it's not a big car. And my mom says, there's a patio place. Can we stop? Can we? Yeah. So we stopped there, and she's looking at all this stuff. I'm looking at all the wheelchair. Okay, I want that one and that one. I'm thinking, oh, we can get that thing out. I'm thinking, bring the Prius there. You see how it's hollow? Yeah. So I sat with this in the back seat. My knees were inside. Oh, all the way home. Give you a trailer on the back. A little extension to the Prius.
Look at the problem with it.
I am so thirsty right now. I'm going to have a drink. Taking everything apart, Mike?
Is that her when she was younger?
Yes.
Betty and Pasquale said that she was beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? They didn't give me a receipt. So I know I'm bad at this, but I need to actually go look and see what they charged me. So of course this is Mom. This is my Uncle Irv.
Oh.
This is my dad's brother. And I don't know when the scripture was taken, but he passed away quite a long time ago. I'd say 20 years ago.
She was a beautiful lady now. I always used to tell her that. When she would answer the phone, I said,
Whose is this?
that your dad's?
Yeah. That one, yeah.
Yes. She's looking down.
Quiet. I'll keep him quiet. I'll eat his nose.
Beautiful.
That's like,
I will give you that.
no, no.
Orange cream soda stuff out of this world. I don't know if we're seeing more though.
There's a Diet Coke right there.
Oh yeah, I know it is.
You're trying to get that other one.
I mean, you can have that. Oh, here it is. You can have that anytime. Now I'm like, let's make it good. I'm telling you, these are so good. Orange cream soda. Okay, you waited too long. There's a, open it later. You gotta find the can opener though. It must be in the kitchen.
Oh, it's okay. I'll save it for later.
We're gonna open it.
Those are really good.
Thank you so much.
Those are so, I'm not kidding.
I love that.
I put 2 decimals in there. And it got them all.
Whenever you have it get together,
Yeah, but
and
yes.
eat Mexican food, I will bring some, okay? I promise you that. So whenever you want a Mexican, whenever you want to do something, have it get together, I'll bring some. Yeah, I do more, but it just depends on, because you know, the second time. Well, remember we had some, you went to my granddaughter's.
Lupita's, she's not like us, she's from Texas.
Oh, yeah, she
I
makes
said,
it
I want
the
mole
best.
poblano. She says, I said, you know how to make mole poblano? Are you crazy? You know how hard that is?
Well, the lady, we're gonna go to your computer right now. She makes it from scratch. She made it for Jesse's, the party you guys went to. She made it there. She made it from scratch. She brought a big old pot of it. I don't know if you really tasted it. We got so much food, but. Well, no, whenever you guys have a get together, let me know and I'll bring something for you too. I'm not asking you about it. Just tell me, I'll bring something. I mean, if you invite me, that's fine. That would be nice, but I would love to bring something. We were late, I was waiting for him.
I always heard, but I just you kind of out there.
Yeah.
I just video that I made. So hopefully it should get saved and should hopefully.
Oh, so then Betty, but you don't even have to go like that.
Watch it. We did some tests the other day, and today I noticed they are there. They did save the videos, and so I'm expecting to save them today. The only problem is it didn't. People were watching it live, but didn't get any video. They only got the sound,
Oh,
which is
really?
pretty good anyway. I mean,
But
none of
it's
us
on
are
the
that big
link.
to look at.
It's on the link. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the
So
link
then
is
I
what I'm
can
saying.
tell
If he
them.
goes to the link now, I believe they'll be able to see
Okay.
the
Try
recording.
it out.
But if not, let me know. And I'll see if I can
Okay,
find
you
it
know what I
correctly.
would like? Do you have a picture of your mom that you can send me? Oh, well, you know what? I can take a picture of it.
No, take that one.
Oh, no, I don't want to do
I
that.
just made that for $3. Take it. Yeah, I'll make another.
I don't have the $3 to give you right now.
What are you talking about? Just take it. Take the
I
picture.
love this. This is what it is. This is
The frame is from the dollar store. The picture was $3. Let's see here. I'll just make another one. I can make one more. I didn't even think about it. She made a bunch of them.
Did she ever have one?
The reason I didn't make her is because I didn't think it was going to come out that well. But it was
You wouldn't even let Red Cat go.
So
But actually, she warmed up to the order. You know what? I remember she liked Cheekies, right? Doreen liked Cheekies? That's so
But now, I don't think she, I think she was 59.
Oh, okay. No, because I asked if she ever had
Never
iguana
told
because
me
she
that.
had a bunch of iguanas. It's so cool.
no, she never did.
My mom has a full iguana story.
My mom
No,
wasn't
no.
big on pets.
No.
My
She
mom.
loved wildlife outside.
Uh-huh.
She liked my brother's birds. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what Toby. Yeah, loud and dirty. They throw the seed all over the place. So Any other
My
animal?
brother loves them, and somehow my mom was okay with that.
You know, what's
But
up?
couldn't have a dog,
Was she hitting that?
couldn't have a cat.
Like the
I had
She
hamsters
was
when I
just
was a
standing
kid.
there.
my
And
mom
one of them got out of
said
the cage.
my brother grew up in the 80s. I was born in the 90s, but so like dinosaurs, robots, all that stuff was in, you know. And he would always have the cool toys and stuff. And one day when he was at school, my mom said that she walked into his room and saw one of his dinosaurs didn't move. And she's like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" It was a big iguana, about this big. And so my mom ran to
I called the fire department.
the fire department.
They just, I guess they thought I was crazy. I had never seen a creature like that. I didn't know what it was.
She thought it was one of my brother's dinosaurs.
They never got close to them, though.
No,
They
there's
do
no,
bite.
the thing that moves, the deer or whatever, when it's running, that's what scared me. I called the fire department and said,